Let's try this. Okay, let's hope this works. All right, so this is a program chair report. I hope everything. All right, great. All right, let's start with the statistics. Thank you for waiting. All right, so in and out, we got 452 submissions after a couple of initial withdrawals. I believe it's a record for crypto. After early reject round, our goal was to early reject, roughly speaking, half of the submissions. Some of them were very good. It's just kind of as a practical matter that it's unlikely they would get in. So we slightly overachieved. It was good. So we got 212 papers survived the early rejection round. And then we accepted exactly an even 100 papers. One paper was a hard merge, 3 soft merges. Overall, there are 96 speaking slots, which is again a record for crypto, but slightly down from last year. But I think the papers are great. I hope you enjoy the program. We had 71 PC submissions, 19 of them got in, so slightly higher average than general population, but I think not outrageous within kind of the expectations that PC probably submits slightly higher on average papers. And we also, in terms of number of submissions per PC, on average, we get 1 submission per PC member. So everything, at least according to statistical eye test, seem kosher. So no corruptions among PC. So this is a little bit, let's see, this is a laser point. This is a slide with a lot of topics. It's hard to read. So Tom asked me to put some kind of joke. So I'm going to try to put the joke. So while we read the areas, I'm going to single out 2 areas, foundations and theory and applied cryptography. So those are the closest that I could find to the program chairs. You can guess which one, even though I do work in applied crypto, but I guess it's probably the closest to me. This is closest to Tom. So these are submitted papers. Distribution. So usually people try to submit to please the chairs. I hope that the chairs will push the area. So what happened in our case? So this is a distribution according to self-proclaimed areas over here. So foundations in theory, I did really well. So thank you guys for whatever you did. So Tom, let's see where Tom is. So he did here, so you know who your friend is, but anyway, it was all done with the PC, but that's my joke. All right, so this is Tom did this amazing word cloud of what is important in today's crypto. It's apparently not cryptocurrency, not even blockchain, but signature schemes by far proof. Zero knowledge functions, applications actually are becoming important. Who would have thought anyway? So what else? So this is like the local heroes, villains, depending whether you want to look up to people with a lot of accepted papers, so you hate those people. I don't know which camp you are. So from my perspective, I really care about integrity of PC. So in terms of PC, no PC member got more than top papers accepted, which I think was within kind of expectations. So, well, actually maybe slightly below. So hopefully we didn't have very corrupt PC. So if you really want to see what will help you to get the most papers accepted, become friends with Yuval. So that's, better indicators than being on our PC. Anyway, so a few other facts, PC reviews and load, well, 2 program co-chairs, Tom and I. We had 72 PC members. We're really glad. Initially, we were advised to take few members. We are so glad we took 72 because, yeah, we got a record number of submissions. Anyway, most of the people got standard load, so everything is fine. We decided not to do this highest standard for PC submitted papers. Every paper just got 3 reviews, just because we didn't believe there is any kind of corruption on our system. Just papers will be treated fairly, especially with such a huge PC. It's just kind of crazy. So we did a simple thing. I think it worked out well. Of course, when there are problems, we required more PC. Great thanks we got a lot of external sub-reviewers. Of course, they did a fantastic job. So one innovation, I'll talk about innovations later. We did allow PC members to submit up to 4 papers. I was, despite the advice of the ICR guide to chairs, but we felt some high quality reviewers wouldn't accept our invitation otherwise. I'll show you some statistics in a second. And indeed, especially for students, we felt it was very important, especially for professors and so on, not to block them when they have papers with students. So it resulted in basic reviewing load of 18. But what we did, I'll discuss at the end whether we think it's a good idea or not, but we did some kind of penalty for people who submit more papers. You really shouldn't submit, like, I don't know, papers which you don't think will get in, but papers which are really important for students or something. So you pay basically for extra reviewing load. So for every extra paper you review beyond the first, submit after the first one, you basically have to cover one paper. You get 3 reviews done for you, so you have to do 3 reviews for somebody else. So it's kind of even Steven. So people complained initially, but kind of worked out. So some more statistics. So this is an interesting one in terms of how many PC members submitted 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 2 is basically the standard before our experiments. 3 and 4, there were a few people over here, but there were 12 PC members. Those were actually, I don't have statistics for that, but those were very, very active PC members who did great job. So we felt like this actually experiment paid off. We did get good PC members for us and some good papers without accepting all necessarily those papers and so on. So we overall like the experiment. All right, the words, in the interest of time, we are starting slightly over, so they were presented here. So of course, congratulations to Brand, David, Ward, Katarina, RL, Alice. Of course, we had really a privilege and honor to have an amazing invited speaker, Yuda, who gave a fantastic talk about MPC journey. Something I'll flash it briefly, it may be having announced, but we have more than usual, but we had a really strong program, so we'll have 6 papers invited to Journal of Cryptology. Maybe it's even news to the authors, but so here the papers, I will not read them in the interest of time, but congratulations to the authors. If you see your name, you will hopefully get an invitation soon. So this is a papers invited to Journal of Cryptology. But it was very hard selection. We had really great papers. So I don't want to spend the rest of this talk about some of the innovations which both Tom and I feel passionate about, and we would like them to continue. So we tried a lot of probably more than average, on average, new things with crypto. So in terms of reviewing process, our main goal was that each paper should get constructive, objective feedback. And we all had our share of complaints about some of the previous editions where we don't even know if some reviews were really low quality. We had these rebuttals, people didn't, so, I will not repeat those things. So I wanted to, Tom and I wanted to make sure that, listen, our PC will be different. We will really do very high quality job and have high quality reviews, but in particular, including why and how the PC has arrived at its final accept reject decision. So contrary to kind of, so people don't say us like, I don't know, maybe you disagree with us, but at least you see our point. We'll tell you how we did it. So some innovations that I will briefly mention, discussion leaders, interactive discussion with the authors, and some subtle but non-trivial changes to the review form. I'll go through those things quickly and see how it works out. So in terms of discussion leaders, we had 1 discussion leader per paper. That person was responsible effectively for all aspects of the paper, because we cannot, Tom and I cannot be personally responsible for 452 papers. It's just infeasible. But we felt like the normal reviewing load, I think, was 6. Discussion review load was 6. So I felt like it's reasonable for a PC member to be personally responsible for 6 papers. And it also, the job is also including moderating these interactive discussions that we'll talk about in a second. And one other important thing to address these things that people should know that the paper was read and should understand what really happened. We introduced this important field, reviewer consensus summary, in the review form. It was Kindle's roster until decision, but it was filled only by the discussion leader at the very end, basically before notifications are sent out, to basically say, listen, we read your paper, this is roughly speaking what happened. And for most of the papers, you got this form. Few people didn't fill the form, we bugged them repeatedly, we did our best, but I hope you like this innovation, and we got some positive feedback about it. So it worked out overall discussion leader quite well. There were a couple of discussion leaders, unfortunately, who were not up to the task, really minority, strict minority by far. We did the best we could, but you know, that's what we did. Also, it was kind of pretty tricky to do this discussion leader assignments because of late reviews. Again, we did the best we could, and overall, I would say it was a success. So I think it should continue. Another very important thing, which was the most controversial probably thing that we did, is a new rebuttal thing. So I will not go into the details, but I think both Tom also shares this view. The old rebuttal thing was like basically a complete disaster. It like almost did more harm than help. It sort of overwhelmed with unstructured reviews, different reviews were emphasizing different things. You had no idea what affects, you know, accept, reject things. You write this really a lot of time on community was wasted. You get emotional. You write this like long Google Doc. So just utter disaster, basically, kind of more harm. And often it's like you write this 3-page rebuttal at the end, nothing changes. The reviews are exactly the same, just a disaster, basically. So we had to fix it. So our solution was to make it short, focused, and matter. So the way we did it, and it was also part of the larger interactive discussion. So what we did is kind of in the first stage, our review form, basically there was only one field that people could see after the initial reviews, which is a field, I'll show it in a second, but this is a field which is question clarifications to authors, where before the reviewer to really think, saying, listen, this is the only thing the author will see. Please think what is important, what can change your mind, what is really important for the paper, why do you recommend the paper to be accepted, rejected, and there are some mandatory things that you have to put. If there is a mistake, don't say there is a mistake and then it turns out it's not a mistake. Mistakes you have to put in, so the authors have to be given a chance to respond to mistakes. Weaknesses and security things, oh, this is a bogus thing, it's like so weak, and at the end it's actually not weak. Again, authors have to be able to respond. Actually, there was a lot of work for us during an interactive discussion later. There was some of those comments by reviewers, so saying, oh, but this is like weak. So we made sure the authors always saw those things. So that took a lot of our time. Anything objective, we wanted to make sure the authors have a chance to respond. Logical flaws and things like that. And of course, there were logical questions like, oh, I think I have a simpler proof. If you think it really affects your evaluations, the author of a complicated thing, put it. It's optional, but gives the authors to respond. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. But only, as I said, you really have to think typos. Don't put typos. It's kind of garbage, right? I mean, it's not going to change, accept, reject things. Really think, focus to think, and overall, so anyway, this is like a very long thing that you don't have to read, but we gave very precise instructions, and people by and large actually followed it. So I think it was hugely successful. This thing. So, and then of course we had the usual rebuttal round, which was kind of much more, the initial questions were much more condensed on the full review. And some papers had 0 rounds. Some people ask us, oh, why didn't we get anything? Well, those papers, at least in our opinion, everything was clear. Usually, really bad papers, so the papers which are really good, I don't know, maybe they didn't get much. It's just everything was clear. Listen, you break something on the laptop in whatever 53 hours, there is no questions, okay, you're in, it's fine, right? So for most papers, 1 round was enough. So it was fine. It maybe didn't result. Some who things kind of got answers or whatever. For some papers, we had many more rounds. So there was one famous paper not to be named. It actually was accepted. I think it's a good paper. But yeah, there was a lot of back and forth between, but we got to the proof. The paper got accepted at the end. I think it's a good result. So we got to the truth. 1 round definitely wouldn't have been enough for this paper. So hopefully the right things happen. So anyway, I'll take a shameless. So I think basically we took a utterly failed system and turned it into something successful. So I think I strongly encourage future chairs, including, I guess, Helena and Anna next year, to at least continue a variant of this. So we really like what we did here. Other innovations, I'll go very quickly. So video abstracts, hopefully you, went on Sunday to some of those things. So if you didn't know, there were a lot of actually very good video abstracts. We felt it's actually a good idea for people who want to get a quick pitch to decide which talks to attend, or maybe don't want to read the technical thing, to read the video presentation by authors. I think it worked out great. Hopefully this condition will continue. So if you haven't seen this, please watch it. It's pretty cool. This flexible submission by PC members, I talked about it briefly. One thing I mentioned was really painful to do it with the system. Assigning these discussion leaders, changing them, especially with wearable thing, was a disaster. So it shouldn't be repeated unless the system, we can help the reviewing system. Early rejection round continuing from FIPTA 2021. Overall, it kind of worked. I think it was, over half of the papers rejected. Overall, help with fact focus, the discussion on the remaining papers. We probably made some mistakes. We did the best we could, hopefully not too many. We apologize to people who got maybe a little bit of rushed things, but it's an experiment, hopefully will be refined next year. So as I said, we felt a little bit rushed, but anyway, a few very quick reflections before I conclude. Things which worked well, focused rebuttal, we're huge fans. Interactive discussion is great that HotCrap supports it. So I think it was very, very helpful. People liked it. Increasing PC submissions limits, we got a lot of positive feedback. The things that we did is variable load, and maybe voice should probably be enough, but I don't see why we need to have them. I think let people just decide if they want to be on the PC. The community is so huge. There are so many reviewers. I mean, I understand if there are like 10 at the early days of crypto, you can say, oh, it's like everything is a PC, the program will be corrupted. It's just kind of crazy. You're not going to corrupt a program with like 500 submissions. So I think let's just eliminate it and not worry about this variable review, discussion, load penalty, and so on. So this would be our recommendation. So HotCrap, I mean, it's becoming more and more popular. I think all the future chairs are using it. Fantastic. It has a lot of cool features. So tags, we used them. Some PC members complained, but then you got on board and you saw how powerful they are. Helped us a lot. There were other things which were great. So for this, so overall, we like it. It had a bunch of things, but overall, it's a very powerful system. So thank you, Tom, for convincing me to use it. It's great. Things which could be improved very briefly. Early reject, as I said, we were a little bit rushed. Partially because we were rushed. The schedule initially was okay, but we didn't count some of the reviewers would be so late, and we didn't want to start it when so many people getting empty things, and then so somehow things got dragged on. So then we were a little bit rushed. So something should be adjusted, and we apologize that some people of the early reject papers, got a little bit of a short end of the stick, but we did what we could. A deeper hierarchy would definitely work. Currently, we had PC chair, discussion leader, so from 452 to 1. So maybe it's a little bit of a too shallow hierarchy. So especially if the discussion leaders were not very receptive, you felt overwhelmed. We tried to literally spend like hours writing comments and doing discussion leader jobs, asking other PC members. So maybe area chairs, maybe some guidance from ICR would also help here. But anyway, I'll finish. This is basically the last thing. So HotCrap support for our needs, could improve definitely for the final versions. We have some hiccups, but anyway, I'll finish with the main lesson. This is just one lesson, and Nadia is here. So 98% work is routine administration, and but anyway.
Thank you, Yevgeny. All right, you guys can go ahead and get set up. All right, 2 super quick announcements. So we have extra swag. Feel free to pick up that tomorrow if you would like some additional whiteboard notebooks or t-shirts or anything. Also tomorrow at 4:30, we have 2 new events. The Women in Cryptography Networking Reception, which is going to be just on the patio below Corwin outside here, and the panel discussion on allyship and inclusion. So I encourage you to attend one of those. In recognition of our Best Video Abstract and Runner-Up Awards, I would like to acknowledge the runner-up, which was non-deterministic hardness versus non-malleability. And our Best Video Award goes to Lattice-Based Zero Knowledge Proofs. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. This is their computationally indistinguishable Oscar. So if the maker of that video could come up and see me afterwards. I also have, thank you. Yep, let's give them a round of applause. I also have UCSB sweatshirts for the runner-up and the winner. So please come see me in one of the breaks. Thank you.